Hello, welcome to Mr. K is Wrong, where I debunk the Facebook memes posted by somebody named Mr. K. And Mr. K is somebody that I used to know back in my high school days who is a right wing doofus. And yes, I do make a podcast where I debunk his crap. So, this is a bit of a two for one special. I'm looking at immigrant-bashing memes that he has posted. So, this one was originally shared by someone called Stay Calm and End Socialism. Yeah, because, because everything to these people is socialism, right? Like literally anything that they might even slightly disagree with. Like maybe if there's a cloud in the sky and they wanted a rainy day, that is a socialist cloud or a communist cloud up there. I guess communist cloud sounds almost like a type of cloud. Like you've got cumulus, right? Isn't that a type of cloud? Cumulus. Got a bunch of other types of clouds, but maybe also have communist ones because they pour rain on your otherwise bright, sunshiny world. But anyway, Stay Calm and End Socialism had a post that just said, an unlawful foreign trespasser expecting due process in quotation marks for deportation is like someone expecting a refund from Walmart on an item they have stolen. Real clever little meme post by Stay Calm and End Socialism. So the meme is misleading because it equates two completely different situations, all right? So immigration is a civil matter, not theft. So imagine that, treating two different things like they're two different things. How about that idea? Entering or overstaying without authorization is handled under civil immigration law, not criminal theft law. Calling immigrants trespassers or comparing them to thieves is not accurate in a legal sense. Of course, these people, even though they say they're all about law and order, they don't know what the law actually says in a lot of cases. Even even as we've seen with actual lawyers like Rudy Giuliani, he didn't seem to understand what the law meant a lot of the time either, and he was actually a lawyer. And the Constitution applies to all persons in the U.S., not just citizens. It's actually clear. You can read it yourself. Go ahead and look at the parts where they talk about this. Courts have consistently held, including the Supreme Court, that the Due Process Clause of the Fifth and 14th Amendments protects all persons, regardless of citizenship or immigration status. That means immigrants, documented or undocumented, are entitled to a fair legal process before the government can remove them. Well, at least that's if people are removing them through a fair legal process, of course. If they're just kidnapping them and shipping them off to a concentration camp somewhere, then all right, that's a different approach, but it is a non-constitutional one. So due process isn't a perk, it's a safeguard. Due process ensures the government follows the law, doesn't deport people to danger unjustly, and allows individuals to present their case, that is, asylum seekers fleeing persecution. Without due process, U.S. authorities could deport people arbitrarily, including lawful residents or even U.S. citizens who get wrongly flagged, or, dare I say, what if they're intentionally targeted? And you don't need rights if you don't have due process. You can just claim somebody is an immigrant and kick them out of the country, whether they were born here or not. I mean that's why people raise the eyebrows about this, or the one eyebrow, that this is the norm now for the Republican Party. It's become an extreme thing. Like, you're on the far left now if you believe that due process should be something that exists in this country. See how far they move things along in terms of like what is deemed to be a far left talking point. Now due process is just a far left talking point. Well, that was something that people used to take for granted, but now it's like we're gonna just target anyone we want potentially and just have our way with them. Either send them to a foreign country into some sort of gulag type of setting, or maybe just kill them right on the spot. Who knows? Who cares? We don't need due process or proper investigations to figure this stuff out, because that's how authoritarian and fascist governments function. They don't care if somebody gets wrongly flagged for something. They don't care what the evidence is. They'll make stuff up. They'll make evidence up about somebody, because these are people who do not care about the law or due process or anything else. They're telling us this. They're telling us that they do not care about due process. I mean, what more should I even need to say? They're confessing what their real mentality actually is. So the Walmart analogy breaks down. If someone shoplifts, they're charged with a crime, and they still get due process in court. So this is a sort of a self-debunking meme, because it's a fact that you get due process if you're accused of theft as well. I mean, the whole refund thing is ridiculous, because that's not what due process is. It's not equivalent to a refund at a Walmart. So, these people are so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable. Like, I can't believe Mr. K was like, somebody I used to know, and I actually got along with them and all that kind of stuff. I mean, not now, they're just stupider than stupid could be. I mean, you know, and immigration violations are not theft. They're civil violations, and just like shoplifters, immigrants face deportation, but they still have legal rights. It's they may face deportation in certain cases. The bottom line is that the meme oversimplifies and misrepresents the law, and most certainly intentionally. Due process isn't just like a reward or a refund, it's a constitutional requirement to make sure the government acts fairly and within the law. So, also recall the original user's name: Stay Calm and End Socialism. In this case, it seems ending socialism entails ending the US Constitution, because apparently that is now a socialist document. It must be like the Communist Manifesto or something. Did I say manifesto? Manifesto. Anyway, moving on to the second meme for the 2-for-1 special. It is also bashing immigrants, because these people are bullies. They like to bash people who have actually less power than the average American citizen. But it's a similar meme. It says, Democrats, remember when the illegals got shipped to Martha's Vineyard and they called the National Guard and had them all removed in 24 hours with absolutely no due process? And that one's supposed to be another fun little meme. It's supposed to be like a zinger. It's supposed to have like a real deep cut, and it's supposed to make somebody who's a Democrat or a liberal or a progressive, or just somebody who cares about the U.S. Constitution. It's supposed to make them feel bad. Maybe get a couple teardrops flowing out of their eye. It's like getting the ego bruised. That's what it's supposed to be like. But of course, the meme is crap. It's just stupid. So let's take it apart. Here's the straight up debunk of this other stupid meme. So the meme gets the Martha's Vineyard story wrong in a few key ways. Nobody was removed without due process. The migrants flown to Martha's Vineyard in 2022 were not deported. They were relocated to a military base on Cape Cod, where state officials could provide food, shelter, and legal services. They stayed in the US and had access to immigration attorneys to pursue their cases. That is due process. So the meme is just flatly incorrect. And that's what I found out about a lot of these memes. They're just factually wrong. Like in this case, due process was actually it was a thing here. So the National Guard wasn't called to kick them out. The Massachusetts National Guard was activated to help the logistics, setting up housing, transportation, and supplies for the migrants. So it was actually doing a good thing. It was actually being, it was actually serving them in a way. They weren't deported, arrested, or stripped of rights. Immigration authority rests with the federal government. Local communities can't deport anyone, at least not legally. It would be considered something else. It'd be human trafficking in that case. So only federal immigration courts and agencies can legally deport somebody. So what happened in Martha's Vineyard was a humanitarian response to a sudden arrival of people, providing them care until federal processes could continue. So oddly enough, like the thing that this meme tried to make out to be a cruel thing, or like equally as cruel as ICE or the DHS, it's actually more of a humanitarian response. So it's very strange how they're sort of comparing or contrasting these two realities, like the ICE raids happening now, where there is no due process, or at least in most of those cases. They're trying to compare it to this one incident, which was actually a response to the what these Republicans were doing. So they were actually sort of improvising these responses because these were not normal things for people to do. So the fact is that the meme ignores the stunt behind the response. The migrants were deceived into boarding planes with false promises of jobs and housing. So that's actually like a form of fraud right there. That seems legally actionable. Now, I'm not sure if anything actually happened as a result of that because the mass media is often pretty shitty at following up on certain stories. But nevertheless, the point is that they were actually deceived into boarding those planes. So the real issue wasn't Martha's Vineyard rejecting them, it was officials exploiting vulnerable people as political props. And what do you know? That's what these Republicans do. And I'm sure you could say that about politicians in general, that they use people as political props, but in this case it was a very disgusting example of it. Sometimes you might be able to defend it, like okay, a politician visits a factory or something like that, or a farm. Okay, like that. You might kind of cringe at that, but it's at least a little bit less disgusting than what happened here. So the bottom line here is that no one in Martha's Vineyard got deported or was denied due process, at least not to my knowledge. They got shelter, legal help, and transportation. So the meme is twisting a humanitarian response into a false narrative because these people lie all the time. Right wingers lie all the time. They only ever tell the truth by accident, basically. And this is yet another example of that. Well, these two memes are examples of that.